This kind of shit is exactly why I hate following anything the media says in the stock market. Guys, we've just had a breakthrough article released from Bloomberg about Nikola Motors. And there's a lot of revelations in this that I think you guys will be quite interested in. So that's exactly what I'm going to share my opinion on in this video. But as usual, guys, before we get into it, make sure to drop me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to set the record straight. The reason why, for example, I've been bullish on the stock market for the past month or month and a half or so is primarily because most of the media has just been extremely bearish. I mean, there is no sign of relief in the amount of recession fears, inflation fears, earnings fears that we're seeing in the market. Everybody wants the market to go down, apparently, right? Literally everybody on the media. And that's reflecting into retail traders on Twitter and all these other social media platforms where everybody wants the market to go down because they're all of a sudden macroeconomic experts. They can now predict inflation and all this bullshit happening that can result in the market going lower. But these people don't realize is that Wall Street is literally designed for retail investors to lose money. So whatever most of Wall Street is saying, the things they're actually doing are completely the opposite. This is what happened in 2020 and 2021. Big funds were selling their positions at the top, and now everybody's left holding the bag because retail investors bought into that selling. And just like right now, when big money is probably buying stocks, retail investors are probably selling. And well, how does this translate into something like Nikola? Well, as you can see, Bloomberg just released an interview that was conducted with Trevor Milton back in June of 2020. These motherfuckers didn't release this interview until 2 years later, even though they had this on record in June of 2020. These guys decided that for some reason, they should create more fear about Nikola instead of actually revealing the truth about what the situation was with the Hindenburg article and the supposed truck that was rolled down a hill in 2016, which obviously does not even matter because today Nikola has fully functioning trucks. As you can see, in this interview back in June of 2020, Trevor Milton was essentially questioned on some employees coming out of the gate and saying that one of the trucks they demoed in 2016 in December at the Nikola Investor Day was actually a pusher. Now, the reason why I thought back in 2021 when I started covering Nikola, why this thing or whether or not this pushing down a hill was a real thing or not doesn't really matter is because, again, Nikola has functioning trucks today. So what does it matter what they did in 2016? It's like saying if you're hiring somebody today at 22 years old, right after they graduated, you're judging them based on something they stole out of a store when they were like 7 years old. It's like making a decision today on something that happened such a long time ago when they were a completely different person. It's the same thing with Nikola Motors. It's a completely different company today. But obviously the media is designed to make you lose money, so the media is going to push out articles that make you sell Nikola stock or become more skeptical and angry about what Nikola has been doing. But in this case, we actually learned that a lot of the stuff that Trevor Milton apparently did was actually not as bad as many people are saying. Now, this doesn't mean that Trevor Milton is not guilty. He is certainly guilty for creating way too much hype around the business in June and July of 2020, which accelerated the stock up. But the thing I've been trying to understand is what caused Nikola's employees back in 2016 to push this truck down a hill or coast it down a hill, whatever they did, right? We need to still understand that a little bit to understand how the engineering process for a startup company at such an early stage actually works. You guys need to remember that back in 2016, Nikola did not have any private investors, nor did they have any public investors. So they didn't have to report anything to anybody. It was just a demonstration. The company was pretty much bootstrapped after it was founded in 2015. And so a lot of the stuff they did back then has no relation to what they're doing today as a public company. And obviously by the time the IPO happened in June of 2020, the company already had functioning units and they had partnerships with Iveco and whatnot. But regardless, if you now look at the interview itself, you can see that Bloomberg questioned Trevor about the prototype that was rolled out in 2016, where they said it was powered by a fuel cell. And as you can see, Trevor replies by saying the initial version of the Nikola 1 was supposed to be a natural gas truck, meaning the carbon footprint was going to be much lower than an internal combustion engine truck, something like what Hyliion is doing today. But they decided that a fuel cell would be much cleaner and that would have much higher investor demand. And so they pivoted the design of that Nikola 1 from a natural gas to a fuel cell. But back then, apparently he says, they didn't actually have the fuel cells available at that time. And because it's obviously a prototype, it's not road legal, and it's not verified and compliant with all the regulations out there in the US. And so they could not actually physically drive the vehicle on the road without either having some sort of electronic failure or obviously getting pulled over by the authorities. And so yes, if you want to take this out of context, the truck wasn't actually drivable that was on the stage at that event. But I don't know if that matters that much, because at the end of the day, Nikola had no LOIs, they had no customers, and all they were trying to demonstrate is what a future electric truck in the Class 8 space could actually look like. And that's what they demonstrated. They demonstrated how the chassis could look like, how the cab over design could be implemented, and obviously how the electronics and internal features could be made much better from an internal combustion engine truck today from a diesel or a natural gas powertrain. And apparently, as you can see, it had all the e-axles, the batteries, inverters, power steering, and controllers all on board the chassis. The only thing they didn't have is the actual combustion engine. In this case, it would be replaced by a fuel cell. And so I don't really understand what the big deal is about this, because clearly there seems to be a miscommunication in how and why this Nikola 1 was demonstrated at that event. Whether or not it's drivable or not, I don't think that really matters to anybody at that point. All that really matters is that you can demonstrate a concept of what a future electric truck would look like. And Nikola has proven that, because now they have fully functioning electric trucks on the road. And so in whatever way you want to interpret what happened in 2016, in either case, it's a win-win for Nikola, but it's not necessarily a win for Trevor Milton, because obviously his words were tangled up by the media, and he also lied quite a bit in 2020, similar to what he was doing back here in 2016. It simply just got amplified. And so as far as Trevor Milton getting charged, I definitely think he should be. But as far as Nikola as a company getting all this hate for something that Trevor Milton did or some of the miscommunications that he made back in 2020 and 2016, I think that is completely unnecessary. And I think all the people that are still bitching about that today are actually probably complete idiots. I see a lot of people in my comment section actually that are still bearish on Nikola, and they still want this company to go bankrupt and blah, blah, blah. I would assume those people are probably ones that lost a lot of money on this stock back in 2020 or 2021 when the stock was at $90 a share. They probably bought it in the very highs, and then they took a big loss on it, and now they just want to enact some revenge on the company. Or there could be folks that are either invested in Tesla and they're jealous of the progress that something like Nikola's making in an industry that Tesla was supposed to dominate, which obviously they fumbled the bag on. But regardless, guys, that's all my opinion on what's been going on with this Bloomberg article that was just released on Nikola. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys' thoughts are on this situation. I think it is a pretty big revelation in terms of how the situation actually played out in 2016. And it also kind of validates a lot of my thesis around how Nikola is a completely innocent company. And a lot of the people around the management team today, apart from Trevor Milton, probably not as guilty as many people think they are and as many of the shorts think they are. But as usual, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.